I downloaded the app to mock it in my article, not to find the devil himself smiling back at me. That's the sentence I typed at the top of my draft while my kettle rattled itself into. An anxious boil in my apartment stared back like a crime scene made of coffee cups. 3 mugs congregated near the sink like widows at a wake. My laptop was open on the kitchen island, a spreadsheet of notes stacked beside it, and post-its climbed. The cupboard doors like neon ivy, algorithmic bias, onboarding friction, retention spike, dark patterns. A 4th mug sat where it always did, on the windowsill, collecting a thin ring of city grit because I kept forgetting the window was never actually closed. Another notification from my editor lit my phone. ETA. Mark already pitched something similar. Of course he did. Mark was a professional barnacle. He could smell a story and attach himself before you even picked up the boat keys. Relax, I muttered to the kettle, because telling myself to relax was a cursed act. You'll have your little tech dating takedown by morning. The assignment was simple. A new dating app, Asteria, had launched with indecent confidence. Billboards, influencers, 4-syllable words about precision matching via desire graphs. The founder was mysterious, vaguely European, probably allergic to bread. My job, put it on my phone, poke holes in it, write something clever before Mark did. Okay. I told the kettle, because no one else was listening. We dance. I downloaded Asteria. The icon glittered like a star caught in a ring. Elegant, expensive, begging to be judged. The onboarding flow was disgustingly smooth. Minimal taps, warm gradients, microcopy that felt like a hand on your shoulder. Tell us what you want, it purred, and then alarmingly, tell us what you don't. I selected enough preferences to fill a grocery list. No gym selfies with mysterious baby nephews, no men who list sarcasm as a love language but mean. Contempt, yes to readers, yes to dog people, yes to people who know the difference between your and your without getting a medal for it. The app hummed. Literally. A faint vibration, like a cat deciding whether to bless your lap. Profiles began to unfurl. Ethan, 31, entrepreneur. CEO of my morning routine. A photo of him holding a fish. Why was there always a fish? Tyler, 29, looking for my partner in crime. Another fish, this one smirking. Matt, 35, work hard, play harder. Sunglasses. A third fish, vengeful. I swiped left with the merciless efficiency of a guillotine. The copy in my draft sharpened in my head. If desire is data, then men with trout are the world's most documented craving. I screen-capped partner in crime for the collage of cliches I was assembling. Mark liked collages. Let him make his from the scraps. 15 minutes in, my kettle had cooled, and my resolve had gone simmer soft. My apartment smelled like old coffee and warm dust, and I was knee-deep in men who described themselves as foodies but meant eats food. I was saving one-liners like they were coupons for a life I hadn't wanted to buy. The app's UI glowed gentle night blues, designed to make judgment feel like self-care. I swiped left on a man posing with a sedated tiger. I swiped left on a man whose bio read, "Ask me anything." I declined to ask him anything. A banner slid across the top of the screen, calibrating. Below it, 80% match found. I paused, thumb hovering, 10% entertained and 90% ready to roast. Noah, 30. I'll cook for you if you'll read me pages from whatever book you won't shut up about. Okay, that one was unfairly specific. Photo, mid-laugh, kitchen, a dog out of focus in the corner, the suggestion of spices. My chest made a reluctant, I swiped right for research purposes and was immediately punished with a follow-up banner, recalibrating. 92% match found. The app was a little too excited. I imagined some server farm vibrating like a beehive. Another card, J, 28. If you hate small talk, we can argue about movies immediately. He had one dimple and a t-shirt supporting an indie bookstore. My heart twitched, my brain yanked the leash. I swiped right, then left on the next 3 profiles out of habit just to keep the snark momentum. The app inhaled, exhaled, listened. 100% match found. I laughed. Out loud. Sure, I told my empty kitchen. Sure, soulmates in beta. The card slid up with no photo at first, just a name, Adrian. Then the image resolved as if the app wanted to make an entrance of it. He was clean lines in a charcoal suit, a white shirt open at the throat like it had never been buttoned because buttons weren't for creatures like him. Dark hair swept back with the soft arrogance of a storm that knows you'll watch it from the window. Eyes, gray maybe, holding the unhelpful steadiness of someone who has never once doubted they could get a table anywhere in the city without a reservation. He was standing against a wall textured like slate, modern and cold, the kind of background you pick when you are the color. His bio was short. Let's not waste time pretending we don't know what we want. I took a breath I didn't remember agreeing to. It sat wrong in my chest, like a bubble trying to decide whether to rise or burst. Too perfect, I said aloud, because speaking to myself had become a sport I was winning. Maybe this is the founder plant. Maybe this is their premium model. Maybe this guy exists to make people spend money when he swipes left. My phone buzzed again. Editor, update? Mark's on Slack asking if he can support your piece. Of course he was. Mark's support meant attaching his name like a parasitic vine and sucking the nutrients out of my effort skeleton. Fine, I told the app. Let's see your trick. I opened Adrian's additional photos. A hand resting on a marble table, long fingers, a small scar near the knuckle that felt like a spoiler to a story I should have known. A candid shot by a window, city lights layered behind him like code you could only read if you knew the language. In one picture, a silver ring sat on the table next to a folded napkin. And my brain, traitor thought, he removes armor when he eats. He lets himself be human. He remembers to put it back on. Stop that, I instructed my brain. You don't get metaphors for free. I swiped up to see his prompts. Best gift I've ever given, time. Cute. Most irrational fear, being bored. A man who had never worked retail. What I'm doing with my life. Building a place where people stop lying to themselves. That one, annoyingly, landed. The app pulsed a soft glow around the match button as if to say, you know you're going to press this. I had a paragraph in my draft about the dark pattern of gentle coercion. Rounded. Corners, lullaby animations, the way design replaces consent with ease. I could feel Mark's headline drafting itself, Desire by Design, How Asteria Plays God. Not today, Mark. I tapped match. The confirmation confetti was tasteful, which made me despise it less. A chat window opened with an elegant little serif font for his name, Adrian, and a blank field where I was supposed to introduce myself to a stranger who looked like he owned a black umbrella and knew how to use it as punctuation. Before I could type, 3 dots bubbled. I froze. The bubbles disappeared, then returned. He was indecisive, which was gratifying. If he'd been effortless at texting too, I would have thrown my phone into the kettle and brewed despair. The message arrived, coffee? I like when journalists fact-check in person. I stared. My editor had not sent my name. I had not connected my socials. I had, in fact, used my most anonymous profile picture. A blurry shot of my hand holding a book with half the title cropped out. Somewhere, buried in the opt-in, I had allowed contact matching, but Asteria had promised to never reveal or pull private data. Promises were cheap. Bad coffee was cheaper. How do you... I typed, then deleted. Then remembered my job. The article. The kettle. Mark. Adrian's typing bubbles appeared again. You're Sophie. You're stalling. You already decided to say yes. My heart performed a small, traitorous fist pump against my ribs. On principle, I resented it. You're a fraud, I whispered to the room, which did not disagree. All of you are. I set the phone down on the counter as if it might bite. The apartment clicked to the rhythm of old pipes and colder neighbors. A breeze slid under the window and ruffled my post-its. Dark patterns? Buckled like a question losing its nerve. I thought of Noah's spice jars, Jay's bookstore shirt, the fish lobby. I thought of Adrian's scar. I picked the phone back up and typed, Journalists prefer tea. I hovered. Deleted the period. Replaced it with nothing. Because men like Adrian could smell punctuation. Then, because the kettle had gone cold and I had gone reckless, I added, Tomorrow 10? He replied so quickly, the app must have already been inhaling my yes when I exhaled it. Tomorrow, 10. Somewhere quiet. A location pin appeared. A cafe I liked 3 neighborhoods over. The one that played jazz at a volume. That felt like a secret, and kept the sugar in tiny porcelain bowls as if sweetness required ceremony. Not ominous at all, I told the post-its. My editor pinged again. Update? On it, I wrote back. Working angle. App claims to predict desire. Testing in the wild. The cursor blinked in my draft like a metronome for bad ideas. My headline stared back, mocking the machine, a skeptic's guide to dating apps. Under it, my hasty note, do not flirt with the product. I added another, do not let the product flirt back. The chat pinged once more. Adrian, no preamble, tomorrow, we can talk about your article. But only if you promise to be honest, with me and with yourself. I snorted, because the alternative was... What? Believing him? I locked my phone and carried the kettle to the sink. Outside, the city ran its never-ending fever, sirens threading through the night, someone laughing. Too loudly on the sidewalk, a piece of music practicing itself on the floor above me. I told myself I was going to this meeting because my job required it. I told myself that men in suits didn't interest me, and men who knew they were interesting interested me least of all. I told myself I wasn't nervous. My palms disagreed. I set 3 new post-its in a row over the stove for morning. Objectivity, boundaries, coffee. Then, because I'm a professional, I added a 4th, devil not equal to literal. My phone lit the counter again with that same steady confidence. One last text from him. Casual as a shrug. Coffee? I like when journalists fact-check in person. The cafe looked like someone had stolen furniture from 3 different decades and bribed them into living together. Velvet booths from the 60s lined one wall. Edison bulbs dangled from brass fixtures that pretended to be industrial, and an entire section of mismatched chairs crowded around reclaimed wood tables like an AA meeting for orphans of design trends. I liked it immediately. It had the kind of ambiance that promised decent coffee and excellent people watching. Adrian was already there. Of course he was. He occupied the corner booth as if he'd been reserved along with the table. Jacket off. Sleeves rolled once, glass of water sweating patiently beside him. The cafe's warm lighting tilted obediently around his shoulders, like even photons wanted to court him. I clutched my notebook like a shield and walked over with all the casual grace of a penguin, pretending to be a swan. Journalist Sophie, he said, standing smoothly. His voice had a low register that seemed to hum against the cafe walls. Right on time. I try, I replied, sliding into the booth. You know, for someone who claims not to waste time, you're dangerously punctual. That's because I don't waste it. He smiled, a small practice thing. I invest it. I flipped open my notebook, determined not to be one of those investments. Let's start simple. Why dating apps? Haven't we saturated the market with enough mediocre algorithms promising true love? True love. His smile widened just enough to show amusement. Such a human phrase. I prefer precision. Sounds romantic, I said, scribbling. Tell me about this precision. He leaned back, hands folded, gaze steady on mine. Humans lie. To themselves, to others. But desire doesn't. It leaks out even when you try to dam it. My app captures those currents and redirects them. It doesn't create attraction, it unmasks it. That sounds like surveillance with better PR, I said. How exactly does it know what I want? You've told it already, he said. Every click, every pause, every choice you've ever made online is a breadcrumb trail back to your hunger. We're just efficient collectors. Efficient collectors. I scribbled the phrase. Mark would salivate. And you? What do you collect, Adrian? His eyes sharpened, too attentive, as though I'd flipped over the wrong stone. Then he said, almost casually, I collect matches. I feed on them. I raised a brow. Feed? He leaned closer, elbows on the table. I'm a demon, Sophie. Asteria thrives on desire, and I thrive on the alignment of it. Every swipe, every match, little sparks, their sustenance. I laughed before I could stop myself, a sharp bark that earned a glare from the barista. That's your marketing hook? Demonic honesty? You think I'm joking, he said, and the worst part was he didn't sound like he was. Of course you're joking, I shot back. If not, I'd have to put metaphysical predator in my lead, and my editor would faint. Editors faint easily, he murmured. They don't like to see the strings behind the curtain. I shook my head, flipping to a fresh page. All right, let's play along. You're a demon. Congratulations. Prove it. He didn't move at first, just tilted his chin toward the couple at the bar. Them. She wants to ask him to move in. She's rehearsing the words against her tongue, but she won't say it. Not tonight. I followed his gaze. The woman was fiddling with her spoon. lips twitching like a typewriter ribbon catching on the wrong key. I exhaled, unsettled. Lucky guess. Adrian's eyes slid to a man in a suit, scrolling his phone. He'll order another drink in 3 minutes. He's waiting for someone who will never arrive. That's... I began, but then the man flagged the waiter. My stomach tightened. Coincidence. And them... Adrian inclined his head toward 2 women at a small table. They're friends. She thinks she's hiding her crush well, but desire glows like a candle. Her friend feels it too. She just isn't ready. I blinked. One woman leaned forward, laughter stuttering into her drink. The other reached out, hand brushing hers a little too long. My pen stilled above the page. That's not... I started, then shook my head. You could just be observant. His smile didn't falter. Observation is part of it. But I taste it too. Desire leaves flavors. His gaze dropped briefly to me. Yours is different. Quiet. Guarded. I forced a laugh, sharp and defensive. So what? I'm flavorless? Sorry I didn't season myself properly for your metaphors. But something flickered across his face. Confusion, then irritation. He studied me as if I'd glitched in his perfect system. No, he said softly. That's the problem. I can't read you at all. The air between us tightened, as though the cafe had inhaled and forgotten how to exhale. I scribbled something meaningless just to have my hand move, but my pulse betrayed me, thudding loud enough that I was sure he could hear. I'm unreadable. I forced another smirk. Guess your algorithm needs debugging. He didn't smile this time. His gaze stayed pinned to mine, and for the first time since I'd seen him, he looked unsettled, like I'd pulled the rug out from under the demon. And maybe, just maybe, that gave me the first real upper hand. The rooftop restaurant looked like it had been built for the express purpose of breaking non-disclosure agreements. Glass walls on 3 sides gave the city below the role of a glittering audience, while the 4th wall was a vertical garden so manicured it might have had its own stylist. The tables were arranged with surgical precision, each draped in white linen, each holding candles so still they might have been engineered. It wasn't just a restaurant, it was a stage. Adrian, of course, fit the scenery. Dark suit again, but lighter tie, as if this was him casual. He stood when I approached, pulling out my chair like a man auditioning for a vintage film reel on chivalry. Welcome, he said. Thank you for accepting my invitation. I figured if I turned it down you'd find me anyway, I replied, sinking into the chair. So consider this me saving us both some effort. His smile was controlled, deliberate. Practicality. I like that. Menus appeared, carried by waiters in tuxedos who moved like synchronized swimmers. I glanced at the prices and nearly choked. Are these entrees or mortgage payments? Adrian didn't bother to look. Order what you like. Consider it part of the arrangement. I narrowed my eyes. Arrangement? That was when he leaned forward, elbows on the table, gaze locked on me with unnerving focus. Let's be clear, Sophie. You want a story. You want to write something sharper than Mark could ever dream of. I didn't flinch at the name, though it stung. Go on. And I, he continued smoothly, want to understand you. You are an anomaly. I can read desire like others read menus, but with you, nothing. Blank. It unsettles me. So let's make a contract. Contract. I almost laughed. Almost. What is it with you and legalese? Did you come with fine print stapled to your soul? He tilted his head, amused. Would you prefer terms and conditions? God, no, I said, opening my notebook just to ground myself. But spell it out. What's in this contract? You get access. Material for your article, proof that I am what I claim. In return, I get proximity. The chance to study you, to see if I can crack whatever wall you've built. Sounds creepy when you put it that way, I muttered, but my pen scratched anyway. You consent, he said, voice silkier now, or you walk away with nothing but cliches about fish photos and bad bios. What will it be? I stared at him, then at the skyline, then back at him. The rational part of me wanted to run. The journalist part of me salivated. Fine. For science, he echoed, raising his glass of wine like a toast. Dinner began with dishes that looked like sculptures, tiny towers of vegetables, sauces painted in arcs across porcelain. I tried not to moan when I tasted the first bite, but his smirk told me I failed. So, I said, stabbing a delicate asparagus spear. Do your trick. Read me. What do I want right now? He leaned back, expression unreadable. I can't. That's the point. His gaze slid to the couple 3 tables over. But them? She wants him to stop talking about his portfolio. She's fantasizing about dessert, chocolate, something rich. I glanced over. The woman's eyes were glazed. Her hand inched toward the dessert menu. Damn it. Another table. That man, Adrian continued, nodding to a balding executive. He's rehearsing how to tell his mistress he won't leave his wife. He's terrified of losing both. Big assumption, I shot back. The executive's phone buzzed. He paled, excused himself, and left his wine untouched. I shifted in my chair. Okay, fine, parlor tricks. But it doesn't prove... The waiter, he interrupted, eyes flicking to the young man pouring champagne nearby. He's calculating if he can quit this job and take the audition next week. He doubts himself, but his desire screams otherwise. The waiter's hand trembled slightly. A drop of champagne fizzed over the rim. I snapped my notebook shut. All right, enough. Maybe you're Sherlock, maybe you're psychic, maybe you're just obnoxiously observant. But here's where you're wrong. I leaned forward now, my turn to close the distance. Feelings are real. They're messy and stupid and human, and no algorithm, no demon, no whatever you are can reduce them to data points. Adrian's gaze sharpened. You mistake chemistry for poetry. Feelings are algorithms of the brain, hormones, patterns, neurons firing. That's all. I shook my head. If that were true, people wouldn't ruin their lives for love. They wouldn't fight wars for it. They wouldn't... I faltered, realizing I was arguing harder than necessary. They wouldn't risk everything for something irrational. He studied me in silence. Eyes so intent it felt like he was peeling me open despite his earlier confession that he couldn't. And then, unexpectedly, his composure slipped. Just a fraction. His lips parted, like I'd said something he couldn't parse. That's why you're dangerous, he murmured finally. I prefer interesting, I shot back, though my pulse betrayed me. The city sprawled beneath us, a map of lights flickering like a million tiny secrets. His gaze held mine across the candlelit table, and for one suspended heartbeat, there was no app, no article, no contract. Just the static crackle of something neither of us wanted to name. I cleared my throat, breaking the spell. So, contract signed then? His smile returned, slow and edged. Signed. With one clause. What clause? You don't lie to me. Not here, not when it matters. I opened my mouth to protest, then closed it. For once, I didn't have a witty retort. And in that silence, something sparked, like the first flicker of a match, waiting to decide if it would burn or be blown out. The newsroom smelled like burnt espresso and ambition. The espresso was courtesy of the office machine that coughed more than it brewed. The ambition came from 30 people hunched over keyboards, pounding deadlines into existence like miners extracting ore. Phones rang. Printers whirred. Someone cursed the Wi-Fi, as if the internet itself were a rival outlet. I dropped into my chair, notebook spilling open beside me. Draft fragments cluttered my screen, lines about algorithms that turned people into commodities, notes on Adrian's little parlor tricks, and scribbled across the margin of a post-it, "Don't let him win." Across the aisle, Mark was already at it. Perfect hair, perfect shirt, that smug posture of someone who believed fluorescent lighting adored him. He tapped his keyboard with the grace of a man convinced his words mattered more than anyone else's. "Morning, Sophie," he said without looking up. "Late night?" "Research," I replied, which was both true and a loaded weapon. "Ah," he said. "Same. You know, these apps are fascinating. All smoke and mirrors, but the public eats it up. I might pitch something today." The vein in my temple twitched. "You might pitch something?" "Just broad strokes," he said, finally glancing at me with a too bright smile. "The way they manipulate desire, the marketing gloss, it practically writes itself." My stomach dropped. Those were my notes. My exact phrasing. I flicked through my draft and spotted sentences missing from the file. A cold realization landed. He'd accessed my shared folder. I marched over, heels clacking against the linoleum. "Mark." "Yes?" Innocence painted his features badly. "Get out of my notes." He chuckled, leaning back in his chair. I don't know what you mean. Great minds think alike? Thieves think alike, I snapped. And you're not even good at it. Careful, Sophie. He lowered his voice. The editor prefers my angles. If your little expose overlaps mine, who do you think gets the byline? It was like being punched with silk gloves, infuriating because the bruise didn't show. I slammed my notebook shut. Enjoy your plagiarism, Mark. I'll make sure the truth shows up anyway. He smirked, already turning back to his screen. We'll see whose truth gets published. I stalked away, pulse hammering, jaw clenched. My article, my story, slipping from my hands because some office parasite knew how to suck up to authority. I wanted to scream, to smash his monitor, to summon lightning and fry the smugness off his face. Instead, I stepped outside to breathe. The alley behind the building smelled like rain-soaked concrete and cigarette ghosts. I pressed my back to the brick wall, head tipped against it, eyes shut. You're angry. The voice slid out of the shadows. Smooth. Familiar. I opened my eyes. Adrian leaned casually against the fire escape, suit immaculate despite the drizzle. He hadn't been there a second ago. You followed me? I was curious. His gaze scanned my face like a diagnostic tool. Someone stole from you. I crossed my arms. You don't know that. I can taste your fury, he said, lips curling faintly. It's sharp, metallic, directed. That man inside, Mark. He's feeding off your work. I stared, throat tightening. You were listening? I don't have to. His eyes glinted, steel under candlelight. Desire leaves residue. His is greed, cheap and frantic. He wants credit, power. Yours is justice. You want it back? Congratulations, I muttered. Another parlor trick. I can fix it. The words hung heavy in the damp air. Fix it, how? Adrian stepped closer, lowering his voice. Accidents happen. Servers crash. Editors lose faith. A few nudges, and Mark would never steal from you again. For a beat, I let myself imagine it. Mark humiliated, exposed, his stolen words evaporating like steam. The fantasy was so sweet it made me dizzy. But then I saw myself in it too, someone who hadn't earned her victory, who'd let a demon sweep her battlefield clean. No, my voice came out sharper than I expected. That's not mine if you do it. My wins have to be mine, or they're nothing. Adrian studied me, expression unreadable. You'd rather suffer injustice than accept help? I'd rather fight my battles myself. For the first time since I'd met him, something like respect flickered across his features. Interesting, he murmured. Stop calling me interesting, I snapped. Then stop being it. He smirked, faint but undeniable. I groaned, scrubbing a hand over my face. You're insufferable. And yet, he said, you keep meeting me. I hated that he was right. Inside, the newsroom buzzed louder, Mark's laughter carrying over the din. My stomach twisted. He was already selling my story as his. Adrian tilted his head, watching me. Dinner again? I should say no. But you won't. I sighed. God help me, I won't. He offered his arm with theatrical flourish. I rolled my eyes but didn't move away. Somewhere between fury and fascination, between pride and the pull of something I refused to name, I knew I'd see him again. Even if it meant walking straight into another fire. The headquarters of Asteria was everything the app wanted to be. Sleek, seductive, a little smug about it. Floor-to-ceiling windows flooded the open space with light, gleaming off. Minimalist desks that looked more like sculptures than workstations. Plants sprouted from concrete planters in curated asymmetry. Every surface whispered, "This is the future of desire." But beneath the design gloss, the air felt wrong. Too taut, like the whole room had inhaled and was holding its breath. I wasn't supposed to be here. At least not like this. My official pretext was a behind-the-scenes tour, the kind they give journalists so they can gush about kombucha taps and nap pods. Adrian had arranged it with the kind of casual authority that suggested no one dared say no to him. Yet when we arrived, he disappeared into a glass conference room with another man, leaving me stranded in the open space. I pretended to study the app's live demo screens, but my ears caught the cadence of argument. The glass walls were thick, but not thick enough. The other man, sharp suit, sharper voice, was Arman. I recognized him from a press photo, co-founder, the kind of title that meant both power and perpetual resentment. He was handsome in a predatory way, jawline cut like ambition, eyes that never softened. If Adrian was polished marble, Armand was carved obsidian. "You've taken this too far." Armand's voice cut through the glass. "The app isn't just predicting matches anymore, it's steering them." "That's the point," Adrian replied, his tone even, almost bored. "People don't want choice, they want inevitability." Armand slammed a palm on the table, making the water glasses jump. "Inevitability is dangerous. You're bending them to your will. It's manipulation at scale." I inched closer, notebook hugged to my chest, heart pounding. "You make it sound so villainous," Adrian said mildly. "We're simply accelerating what they already crave." Armand leaned forward, eyes blazing. "Don't play semantics with me. You're not human, Adrian. You don't care what happens when the system collapses under its own weight." My stomach lurched. "Not human." The words scraped against every sarcastic defense I'd been stacking since our first coffee. I told myself it was metaphor, boardroom drama, but Armand's fury didn't sound metaphorical. "You knew what I was when you shook my hand," Adrian said, voice dropping lower, steel threading through velvet. "And you were glad to use me then." Something flickered across the glass wall. Just a shimmer, like heat over asphalt. For a split second, Adrian's silhouette warped, shoulders broader, eyes brighter, a shadow curling like smoke around him. Then it was gone. My breath caught so sharply I almost choked on it. Armand didn't flinch. He looked like a man staring down a wolf he'd already decided to leash. "You think I can't cut you out? One vote at the board meeting and you're gone. We'll strip you of authority, lock the code, erase your fingerprints from the servers." Adrian leaned back in his chair, calm in a way that was more terrifying than anger. "Erase me?" His smile was slow, dangerous. "Try..." Another shimmer. This time, brighter. The lights above them flickered, and the water in Armand's glass rippled, though no one had touched it. I stumbled back from the glass, clutching my notebook like a shield. My mind screamed this isn't real, but my body disagreed. Every hair on my arm stood upright, skin prickling with cold. Inside, Armand's face tightened, but he didn't retreat. "You're out of control. This isn't a company anymore, it's a weapon." "And yet," Adrian said softly, "you'll keep me. Because you know you can't build Asteria without me. You want desire without limits? I am limits undone." The word demon rang in my ears from our first meeting. No longer a punchline, but a fact. The glass door clicked open, and suddenly Adrian was in the open space. With me, expression composed, human mask firmly back in place. "Tour over?" he asked lightly, as if we hadn't both just heard him glow like a nuclear reactor. I swallowed hard, throat dry. I should go." Armand emerged behind him, adjusting his cufflinks with surgical precision. His gaze flicked to me, sharp and assessing, like a blade testing skin. "Journalist," he said, tone dripping disdain. "Careful whose story you chase." I nodded quickly, feet already carrying me toward the elevators. Adrian matched my stride, infuriatingly calm. "You look pale." "Don't," I hissed, pressing the call button so hard my thumb ached. "Don't you dare pretend I didn't just... I flailed for words. "See that?" His lips quirked. "So you believe me now." Believe. As if belief were the right word for the way my rational world had just cracked like cheap glass. "I don't know what I believe," I whispered, "but I know I should run." The elevator chimed. I stepped inside, pulse rattling like dice in a cup. Adrian didn't follow. He just stood there, watching me with that maddening composure, eyes glinting with something I couldn't name. As the doors closed, the last thing I saw was his smile, calm, knowing, dangerous. And in the pit of my stomach, fear curled tight around something worse. Curiosity. The bar was dim, the kind of dim that promised secrets would stay whispered. Amber bulbs hung low over dark wood, and a jazz trio in the corner played music just shy of melancholy. I'd chosen it for the quiet. A place to meet Lena where she couldn't demand selfies and where my brain might slow its frantic reel of, he's not human, he's not human, he's not human. Lena arrived late, as usual, cheeks flushed from the cold, hair spilling out, of her coat like she'd just staged a dramatic exit from a better party. "Sophie," she sang, sliding into the booth across from me. "God, you look like someone told you decaf is the only option left." "I've had a week," I said flatly. You always have a week. She flagged the waiter with a flick of her nails and ordered wine without looking at the menu. So? Tell me about the mysterious guy. The one you won't stop half mentioning in texts. I stiffened. He's complicated. Lena grinned like a cat with the canary already in her teeth. Complicated is code for hot. Before I could deflect, the air shifted, the subtle awareness I'd started to associate with him. And there he was, Adrian, appearing with the kind of timing that wasn't coincidence. A suit again, though a softer cut this time, no tie, as though he'd dressed down for irony. Evening, he said smoothly, sliding into the booth beside me as if the seat had been waiting for him. I nearly choked on my drink. What are you? Following up, he said, ignoring my glare. Contracts require regular review. Lena's eyes widened, then narrowed in quick appraisal. She leaned forward, smile sharp. So this is him. Adrian. He inclined his head in greeting. She laughed, the kind of laugh that spilled like champagne, and touched his arm when the waiter returned. Something hot stabbed in my chest. Really? I snapped. What? Lena blinked innocently, hand still resting on his sleeve. I'm just being friendly. Friendly as asking someone how their day was, I said, not trying to melt into their suit jacket. Adrian didn't move her hand. He looked at me instead, eyes glittering with unreadable amusement. Jealous? The word scraped across me. No, I hissed. But I am disgusted. Do you enjoy making women orbit you? Is that the game? His expression shifted, the amusement folding into something sharper. Game? Yes, game. I spat. You appear when you want. You vanish when you want. You let people fall all over you, my so-called friend included, and then you tell me you can't read me like that's some kind of cosmic riddle. You're playing me. Silence stretched between us, thick enough to drown in. Lena blinked, half delighted by the drama, half aware she was intruding. Adrian finally leaned closer, his voice low enough to cut through the music but reach only me. With everyone else, he said, words precise as blades. Yes, I play, I twist, I bend, I devour. That is what I am. His gaze didn't waver. But with you, Sophie? No. And that is my weakness. The words landed like a blow. For a moment, I forgot Lena, forgot the bar, forgot everything except the way his eyes held mine like a line drawn taut. My pulse thundered so loud I was sure he could taste it. You, I started, but my voice broke. He was too close now, too certain. The city outside was a blur through the windows, the music only a hum in my ears. My anger tangled with something treacherous, want, sharp and undeniable. And before I could stop myself, before I could remember every reason to walk away, I leaned in. The kiss wasn't soft. It was a collision, all teeth and heat and fury. My hand fisted in his lapel, his fingers caught the edge of my jaw. Anger bled into hunger, and hunger blurred into something worse, something dangerous. When I finally tore back, breathless, my wine glass trembled on the table. Lena's jaw had dropped, delight warring with disbelief. I wiped my mouth with the back of my hand, heart thrashing like it wanted out of my chest. This, I whispered, glaring at him, is a terrible idea. Adrian's smile curved slow, certain, dangerous. The worst, he agreed softly. And yet neither of us moved away. My apartment had never felt smaller. The city pressed in through the window, a glowing hive of lights and sirens and people who didn't care that my career had just been gutted. The article, my article, had gone live that morning. Only it wasn't mine. Mark's name sat smugly at the top, his byline glowing like a stolen crown. Every line I'd fought for, every observation I'd wrestled into shape, now paraded under his banner. I'd spent the entire day alternating between fury and numbness until all I could do was sit on the floor with my knees pulled to my chest, laptop screen glaring accusation at me. My inbox was full of polite condolences from colleagues who understood how these things happened. Translation, you lost, he won, welcome to the food chain. By the time night fell, my throat was raw from unshed words. That was when the knock came. Sharp, deliberate. I didn't move at first. The city hummed below, neon buzzing like a hive. The knock came again. Sophie. Adrian's voice slid through the door, low and commanding. I opened it before I could stop myself. He stood in the hallway like the building had been built around him, suit immaculate, expression carved from shadow. You've seen it, he said. Not a question. Of course I've seen it, I snapped, stepping back. It's plastered all over the homepage with Mark's smug face attached. He stole it, Adrian. Everything. He followed me inside, gaze sweeping the chaos of my apartment. Coffee mugs, crumpled notes, evidence of a battle lost. Then let me fix it. I laughed, sharp and bitter. With what? A puff of smoke? A convenient server crash? You already offered that trick, remember? His jaw tightened. You think small. I don't crash servers. I end careers. I froze. He wasn't bluffing. Not this time. Before I could answer, my phone buzzed on the counter. A new message lit the screen. Unknown number. Armaine, you've seen the byline. You know he's using you. Adrian will use you too. Meet me. We can deal. My skin went cold. Armaan, I whispered. Adrian's eyes narrowed. What did he say? Nothing, I lied, shoving the phone face down. His gaze sharpened. Don't lie to me, Sophie. I bit back the tremor in my throat. He wants me to meet him. He says you'll use me just like Mark did. Adrian's expression didn't change, but the air around him thickened, charged. And, will you? The question sliced me open. What am I supposed to do? You admit you manipulate people. You admit you're not even human. How am I supposed to trust you? Because I chose you, he said, voice steady, dangerous in its certainty. Do you think I waste time on illusions? I could have anyone, read anyone, but you. He stepped closer, eyes burning. You're the only one I can't see through. That makes you real to me. My laugh cracked, brittle as glass. Real? You kiss me one night, then talk about devouring people the next. You expect me to believe you care? He didn't flinch. Care is irrelevant. Truth is not. I can give you everything, power, victory, the truth you crave. Everything but lies. But you have to choose. The words settled heavy in the room. I can give you everything but lies. I wanted to scream at him. I wanted to demand how much of this was manipulation, how much was genuine. But all that came out was a whisper, and if I can't choose? His eyes softened just enough to hurt. Then you walk away, and you'll never know if you left the only thing that wasn't false. Silence crushed the space between us. The city outside blinked and pulsed, oblivious. I shook my head, tears finally breaking loose. I don't want to be someone's experiment. I don't want to be your weakness. I just want something that's mine. Adrian reached out, fingers brushing the air near my arm, not touching, just hovering. Then stop running from it. Something inside me cracked, sharp and unfixable. I stepped back, away from his hand, away from the pull that terrified me as much as it thrilled me. I can't, I choked. I can't trust you. Not like this. His face shuddered, mask sliding back into place. Then go, he said softly. But don't lie to yourself, Sophie. You'll come back. Because you're as curious about me as I am about you. I grabbed my coat, my notebook, anything to keep my hands from shaking, and fled. Out on the fire escape, the city's chills slapped me, salt and steel in the air. Below, traffic snarled and pulsed, anonymous and loud. Tears burned down my cheeks, hot against the cold night. Inside, behind the glass, Adrian still stood in my apartment, framed against the glow of the window, watching me leave with eyes that promised nothing and everything at once. I stumbled down the stairs, each step a drumbeat of fury and grief. The city roared around me, indifferent, while my heart pounded a single truth. I was falling for something I didn't believe in, and it was going to destroy me. The rooftop wind whipped my coat like a flag, tugging hair into my eyes. Below, the city stretched endlessly, windows glittering like a million. Restless hearts, each flickering in its own pattern of desire. Adrian stood near the edge, posture sharp against the skyline. Across from him, Armaan waited, all sleek menace and predator calm, as if the skyscraper were just another boardroom. And me? I was the unwelcome third variable in their equation. My lungs burned from running the stairs, but my heart hammered for an entirely different reason. Sophie, Armaan said, acknowledging me with a smile that felt like a knife. Perfect. You'll want to hear this. I crossed my arms, masking the tremor in my voice. You two want to tear each other apart. Fine. Leave me out of it. That's impossible, Armaan replied smoothly. You're the glitch in the system. Adrian can't read you, and that makes you leverage. You could expose him. Or, his eyes flicked to Adrian. You could ruin him. Adrian's voice was low steel. She's not yours to use. Armand's laugh was cold. Everything is use. You taught me that. The air crackled. Shadows bled at the edges of Adrian's frame like smoke too stubborn to disperse. The truth I'd been denying since the cafe was undeniable now. He wasn't human, and Armand knew it. Both of you stop, I snapped. My words vanished into the wind, but adrenaline carried them further. I'm not a bargaining chip, I'm not leverage, and I'm not staying quiet. My laptop bag thudded against the concrete. Fingers trembling, I pulled out the device, screen already alive. Weeks of drafts, screenshots, timestamps, evidence of Mark's theft, of Asteria's manipulations, of everything they thought they could hide. Adrian frowned. Sophie... No, I cut him off. I won't let Mark win. I won't let either of you decide my story. This is mine. I hit publish. The article went live in seconds. Headline blazing across the feed. Desire by design. What Asteria doesn't want you to know. Not under Mark's name. Mine. Notifications exploded. Shares, comments, pings from my editor, calls I ignored. The truth was out, raw and public. Armand's jaw tightened, fury cracking his polished mask. You'll regret this. Maybe, I said, pulse steadying. But at least it's my choice. For a long moment he stared at me, calculating, seething. Then he turned on his heel, disappearing into the stairwell with the storm of a man plotting his next move. Silence stretched across the roof, broken only by the city's hum and the wind's restless fingers. Adrian exhaled, tension rippling from his shoulders, his gaze fixed on me, unreadable as ever. Then, slowly, he pulled his phone from his pocket. What are you doing? I asked. His thumb moved across the screen. The app glowed faintly, pulsing like a heartbeat. Then, with a final swipe, it vanished. Your profile, he said, voice soft. Gone. I blinked. What? He stepped closer, wind catching his suit jacket. I don't need it. The data, the matches, the illusions, none of it matters. You're my only match, Sophie. The only one that feels real. Everything else is empty. The world seemed to tilt beneath my feet. The city roared below, uncaring, but here on this roof, his words carved a space only we could occupy. You expect me to believe that? My voice cracked, a blend of defiance and hope. He held my gaze, unwavering. I expect you to decide whether to believe. If it's an illusion, it's yours to break. If it's real. His lips curved faintly. Then stay. The choice pressed down on me. Every warning I'd given myself, every line I'd drawn in neon post-its on my wall. He was danger wrapped in a flawless suit, contradiction made flesh. Trusting him meant stepping off the ledge without a net. But the alternative, walking away, felt colder than the wind whipping around us. I swallowed hard, tears blurring the skyline. If it's an illusion... I forced a shaky smile, then let it be. Because for once, I want to believe. Adrian's expression softened, something almost human flickering across his features. Slowly, carefully, he reached for me, not commanding, not demanding, but asking. This time, I didn't pull back. The kiss was nothing like the one in the bar. It wasn't anger or challenge. It was surrender, reckless, terrified, exhilarating surrender. His hand cupped my cheek, warm against the night's chill, grounding me in the middle of a city that never stopped shifting. When we broke apart, breathless, the world looked different. Not safer, not easier, but brighter somehow, like the skyline had decided to conspire with us. You're insane, I whispered, forehead against his. Undeniably, he murmured back. But so are you. The wind howled, the city sang, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was watching life from behind glass. I was in it. Messy, dangerous, alive, and maybe, just maybe, matched at last.